So, wow, the community in game sure has been on fire the past several weeks. I want to breeze through basically a rough history of what's happened this year, how we got to this point, what caused it all, and then go into how Epic 7 is compensating us for the fiasco that they created. So for those of you who don't know, or have been living under a rock, we've had a leadership change. Back in early 2023, I'd say around April-May range, but I'm not exactly sure of the date, Director Yuna Kim left the company. Now, we don't know why she left. There's a lot of conspiracy theories flowing around that, Epic 7 wanted a China server and Kim was against making changes necessary for that, changes to art, changes to 2x speed, things like that, and she was pushed out. Others that she's just moved on to bigger and better things. I don't know. If somebody knows for sure, put it in the comment section, but I'm not going to get into assumptions or guesswork on that. Regardless, she left, and Smallgate hired a new director, Bak Yun-hoon. This guy was the former vice president of Netmarble and was involved with Nexon as well. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Netmarble and Nexon, these Korean companies are famous for weaponized monetization, running games into the ground, and player dissent. So a lot of us were a little bit concerned when we saw this change coming over. Shortly after the new director joins Smilegate, we start seeing some changes. I don't know if he was the one who was at the helm during the Outer Plane fiasco where they introduced an event that required multiple banner heroes in order to complete it and farm it, but the community rose up against that and it was completely removed. We do know that he was at the helm when they introduced the summer event, where you needed imprints on Lulika to even be able to farm the event at a meaningful level. And the community rose up and rioted about that, and it got reversed. Then we start seeing intense weaponized monetization. We start seeing double collabs in 1 month. We see 11 limited units in a 5-week period. More limited units run out in September. A lot of us start to be very concerned about the power level of new units that are coming out, about giving us MLs for limited units. It's clear that Smilegate's decided that the current rate of income is not high enough, that they need to make even more money. And I'm actually kind of okay with that. It's okay for a game to want to make more money, but the pacing and the intensity of it have a lot of us concerned. And then they hit us again with Awakening Potential. Now, you can call it whatever name you want to call it. This is adding 7 stars to the game. And I've always been very clear that 7 stars are a watershed moment for me. The moment they add 7 stars to the game, I'm out. I have played too many games and watched 7 stars be the not causing an immediate end of service, but being the reason games rolled into end of service. It is a fast money-making tool for companies who are willing to sacrifice their game in order to cash out every single time. To sum it up real quickly, Awakening Potential basically was a way for you to awaken units to a higher level, giving them tremendous boost to their stats, just like leveling something to 7-star, and monkeying with the imprint system so that as you pull more units, you get more imprints, you're able to unlock new skills, much like 7-star units would get. The system at its core is incredibly scummy. It's incredibly pay to win, and for those who think I'm overreacting to this, I'm not. Okay, this is a bad thing. It's one thing to do this in a PvE game like Genshin, but Epic 7 is trying to make a competitive esports game, and this undermines the very concept of a competitive esports game. This is introducing a system that says if you aren't willing to spend a tremendous amount of money, you're not going to be able to play in the competitive aspects of this game. Because you can tell me all you want that, like, oh no, if you can farm the imprints and you could farm the awakening and you could do it free to play, or no, you can't, guys. They're talking about doing this to every single unit that comes out from here on forward, and there's no way that anybody's going to be able to compete against that with a free to play version. It's going from pay to win to pay to play. Epic 7 has always been pay to win, where spending money, it lets you accelerate your progress and get things faster, but it's never really crossed that line of if you don't spend the money, you don't get to compete. And this spills into things outside of RTA. We have a system of overpowered units, so any new content in the game is going to be stale and boring for people with those units. So people are going to start asking for more challenging content, and they are going to start releasing things like Rift as the norm, where if you don't have 7-star units, you probably aren't going to be able to do this PvE content. Now even PvE becomes pay to play. You don't like how Rift is? Well, that's just the start of it. So the community loses its ever-loving-ness. They rise up again and complain. Korea riots. They send protest trucks. China review bombs. They prep to send, I hear, 3 to 4 more protest trucks. These trucks cost thousands of dollars. They circle the Smilegate headquarters for 8 hours a week, playing recordings of prominent members of the community expressing their dissent. So Smilegate rolls back the changes a little bit. They say, okay, we hear you don't like it, here's why we still want to do it, but we'll go ahead and only do this on older units as a form of bringing them back into the game and monetizing imprints there, but we aren't going to do it with new units. Korea and China say, oh, hell nah. We do not want 7 stars, even disguised as waking potential, even on older units in our game at all. Remove it immediately. And then they redouble their efforts on the protest. The review bombing gets even more intense. I hear it even made national news. Within hours of the news hitting, I'm told, Smilegate has the department head for Megaport, Jae-hoon Jung, go and make a formal apology to the community. He states that the Awakening Potential system has been cancelled and that all features related to it have been entirely removed. They promise they will not pursue similar updates like messing with imprints, because every time they mess with imprints, the community loses their mind, as they should. The community celebrates. The system is removed, we've won the battle, but really that's what it is, guys. We've won the battle in a war that we're probably losing. Smilegate needs to make more money. They need to find a faster way to accomplish that. And people say, well, look at the numbers. They're doing the same. They've made 3 to 5 million every year for the past several years. Like, yes, think about that for a minute. They made 3 to 5 million a month every month in 2022, and they made 3 to 5 million a month every month in 2023. But look at the differences between 2022 and 2023. Look at the volume of limited units, the number of back-to-back collabs, the addition of the China server, all of this, and we're still only making 3 to 5 million. It makes you wonder what kind of income rate they would have made if they hadn't done all this weaponized monetization. We're not really growing, we're not really shrinking. If anything, we're on a very ever so slight downhill grade, and they're trying to find a ways to reverse that and try to find a ways to monetize it. This is not the way. This was a terrible idea, and I'm glad it's scrapped. It needed to burn in a fire, and Smilegate deserves every bit of ire from the community for attempting such a system. But they do need to find other ways to monetize, and one thing that they did say at the end of the second apology over this was that they recognize the need for additional communication channels, additional ways for community to get the feedback to them, and I think that's great. Communication is something that Smilegate has always struggled with, and that they're acknowledging a need for increased communication is huge. When people feel unimportant and ignored, people don't stick around. So hopefully these new communications go into place, and it's a way for us to let Smilegate know how satisfied we are with certain things before it gets to a level of renting protest trucks. I, for one, hope I never have to make another video like this again. Now, at the end of the apology video, we were offered a compensation. We're getting a handful of leaves, and we're getting a 5-star Selector ticket. Now, this 5-star Selector ticket can be used on any unit in the game, even recent ones. You didn't pick up Kane, or you didn't grab your Nahkwol, they'll be on the table. Now, 5-star Selector tickets are only for RGB units, and they never include limited or collab units, so forget that right now. You're not able to get your ML Landy and no Midnight Gala Lilias for Karina for you, but all RGB units who aren't limited or collab should be on the table for you to select. That'll bring us to the second part of the video where we talk about what RGB units should you go for. But before we jump into that, I want to talk to you guys about the promotion that we're running. Now this promotion is a way for those of you who don't mind spending to really get some maximum return on investment. I myself have done this, it works, it's not against terms of service, it's not illegal, it really is a way to make your Epic 7 purchases be 30 to 50% cheaper. Now, you free-to-play people may just want to skip this part, but anyone who spends even a small amount will probably want to hear this one out. So, do you like saving money? Do you like discounts? How does 30 to 50% off all of your Epic 7 purchases sound? Well, I have some exciting news from Hauwei AppGallery. They just launched an incredible campaign offer now through September 24th, where you can actually save 30 to 50% on in-game purchases every single day. Let me walk you through how to get these deals. You'll need to grab an Android device, or in my case an emulator, and install a browser real quick if you don't have one, and then head over to the Hauwei AppGallery, link in the description, and just install the app. Now you have to provide birthdays, emails, maybe phone numbers, all the basic stuff that app stores that process money ask you for, nothing out of the ordinary. Make sure when you get to the birthday part that even if you want to lie about your age, you claim to at least be 17 years old, or you'll get stuck behind a child account wall. Now make sure when you get to the country, no matter where you live, select Turkey. Setting your country to Turkey gives you access to this promotion. Once installed, you'll need to check to make sure that HMS Core is also installed. HMS Core runs in the background and it just makes sure that all of your in-game purchases are connected to your Hauwei account. Now, install a new instance of Epic 7 via the Hauwei App Store and make sure that this is the instance where you make your purchases. Once all this is done, head over to the features section and take a look at the promotions. This month we have a series of coupons offering up to 30% off of your purchases, and these coupons can be redeemed every single day throughout the duration of the event. No limit, no tiers, no cap. So let's take a look at this 200 lira coupon. This pack is $50 US. In lira, that's 1107. 1107 lira is just over $39, so even without the promotion it's already $10 cheaper. Now the promotion gives us this 200 lira coupon that gets it down to a $32 pack for a $50 pack. And another nice perk is that Turkey doesn't collect sales tax. This is many times what other app stores are currently offering, and it's really simple to get this up and going. But if the process still confuses you, or if you hit a stumbling block, head over to the official Discord, also a link in the description. In this Discord, you'll find helpful tutorials and a team of people ready to answer your questions. Hauwei on a regular basis also hosts giveaways in their Discord, so make sure you join. Now, something important I want to bring up. It has come to my attention that some people, predominantly people who live outside of the US and Europe, are running into payment issues where their cards are being declined. This is largely due to some credit card companies not allowing purchases in foreign currencies. If you are running into this issue, here's the solution. Go into your Hauwei app, click on the Me icon on the left-hand side of the page, and then scroll down into the Settings section. Scroll down again in Settings and find the Change Your Country/Region. Change it from Turkey to Switzerland. Hauwei is running this promotion in Switzerland, and Switzerland allows the use of PayPal. And PayPal does not have any restrictions on foreign currencies. Now, the Switzerland exchange rates are worse than Turkey's, so definitely use Turkey if you can, but if you can't, if you're running into this roadblock, setting your country to Switzerland still allows you access to this promotion and 20 to 30% total discounts on your purchases. Well, now that the sponsors are satisfied and the spenders have a great way to save money, let's get into the second half of this video. Who should you get from the Selector? Now, this list is huge, so I'm only going to spend a few seconds on each unit. And I want to specify a couple of things. If you're pulling for an imprint of an ML unit or a limited unit, that's not going to be covered in this list. It would be too difficult to discuss the value of, say, Blue Lulica when you're considering using her to imprint Ocean Breeze Lulica. So if you're pulling for imprints, you do you. Second thing is that this list is assuming you don't have each unit we're talking about. If you're missing a unit, maybe you want to pull that unit just to have it for collection purposes, and also because Smilegate is pretty well known for taking useless units and buffing them into the meta, so what's today's garbage might be tomorrow's treasure. And third is if you just really love the unit. You should get the unit. I don't care what my or anybody's tier list says, Epic 7 is a game, and games are about having fun. And if pulling Fire Aramentha makes the game more fun for you for some reason, then you do that. Because if we're not having fun, what are we really doing here? But that said, we're going to start this time at the top of the tier list and work our way down. I've broken the tier list into segments based on these units are kind of must-have, either for RTA or for PvE. They're must-have units. And then strong units. By strong units, I mean these units find constant, rapid use in many aspects of the game. And then there's the seldom used units. These are units that you might just use occasionally. They might have niche uses. They are units you occasionally reach for, but probably not as often. And then there's the near zero use units. These units are units that either don't have a job, are so incredibly niche that they maybe only have one job, or their job is replaceable by other better suited units. That said, let's jump in and talk about what I consider the must-have units in this game. First is Tamarinne, the queen of PvE. You'll find her used in Abyss, in Expeditions, in all forms of PvE content. She really doesn't have a place in RTA, but she is almost a must-have for a large amount of PvE. Next is Roana, who is competing with Tamarinne for Queen of PvE, but she is also fantastic in RTA. Best part is she is super easy to gear. Brieg stormed onto the PvE scene. Everybody thought he was going to be just for Expeditions, but he's found his use in multiple aspects, from Nightmare Raid to even some lower-end RTA usage. Iseria is Tamarinne's best friend. She is fantastic as an enabler to Tamarinne, but also as an enabler to other high cooldown units like Dark Corvus, and her use in the Abyss is unquestionable. Destina, probably one of, if not the strongest healers in the game. She'll find her heavily used in RTA, as well as in many aspects of PvE, from Guild Wars to Arena to Nightmare Raid. Yulha, who doesn't have much use in PvE outside of Guild Wars, but is probably one of, if not the strongest units in the game for RTA. So much so that she is, I believe, the most commonly banned unit out there. Her gearing is a little bit difficult, but very powerful unit. Speaking of powerful unit, we have Nahkwol, who is basically Fire Yulha. A lot of people said that we were over-exaggerating her value, that we were blowing things out of proportion. In my opinion, we weren't. She is a devastatingly powerful OP unit. Speaking of high gear requirements, Ran is still one of the best RTA units in the game, and has PvE uses in the form of Arena and Guild War, as well as some Nightmare Raid uses. To make a good Ran, he takes incredibly high-end gear, but to make a decent Ran, he's still hard to build, but not impossible. Peira is another powerhouse opener, little less commonly used in PvE, but still one of the top openers for RTA. Her gearing is not quite as hard as Rand's because you're not as worried about damage. Now let's talk about the strong units who are commonly used. Yulha, we all thought she was going to be out of RTA with the inception of all these injury units like Choux, but she is still hanging in there as one of the best DPS knights. She's got a Krau Like Passive, which makes her fantastic in Guild Wars as well as RTA. Senya is probably the best entry-level knight for use in RTA. If you're trying to break into RTA, this is a must-have unit. She's good in Guild Wars, in Arena, and she will get you to Masters RTA almost by herself. Rat doing rat things is still incredibly powerful, though she's not seeing as much play as she used to. She is still a solid unit in Guild Wars and in RTA. Zahak is a must if you are struggling with evasion units like Remnant Violet and Auden. Zahak has a moderate to high level gear requirement, but is really unpleasant to fight against, and a fantastic tool for dealing with evasion, as well as PvE usages in Nightmare Raid. Politis, the Cleaver's Bane. Politis can be built tanky, she can be built with counter set, she can be built extreme DPS with Tag's Book for soul burns, she can be put on a speed set, a destruction set, she can be built several different ways, and when you pick her, you can really make your opponent's life hard. Flan is a little bit more difficult to use. She's hard to gear, but when built right, she will crush Arena and Guild Wars for you, and still has some usages in RTA when cleaving. And Sharu, HP scaling is a big deal now, and with units ranging from APOC Ravi to Last Rider Krau to Lethe, it is good to have a unit who can burst down HP bars crazy fast with her Venom skills and her ability to do a almost complete strip with 3-turn reduction. Fantastic addition to any team. Beehoo is probably the most underrated 5-star unit in the game right now. He can solo teams, he can deal with a lot of evasion situations. This is a fantastic addition to your team. Alencia has fallen off quite a bit, but in RTA and in Guild Wars, she is another fantastic way to deal with HP scaling units, and occasionally she slips her way into PvE in the form of Advent and various Abyss floors. Though she has a high gearing threshold, she is worthwhile to build. Fire Lilias. Somewhat difficult to build, but a great answer to a lot of Guild Wars situations, as well as having uses in Nightmare Raid. Her dual attack also lets her be featured in many Hall of Trials. Green Vildred is mostly for the speed imprint. No unit in the game gives as much speed to your team as Green Vildred. Sure, some give 14 speed, but it's only to 2 slots. 12 speed to your entire team is insane. He also is a great PvE unit. He can be used in Azamanic 13. He can be used in farming Unrecorded History, and he is a great cleanup crew unit, not only boosting cleave speed, but cleaning up after cleave is done. And Abigail. Abigail brings a unique tech to the team that lets her be very difficult to deal with. Having a unit who can make another unit not be killable until you deal with that super tanky unit, that can wreck any opponent's draft if they aren't very careful on picking around it. Eligos, another very underrated hero. People have yet to realize that Eligos' S3 ignores element, it pushes you back, and it defense breaks and targets. Imagine how good that Karena, who is a defense scaling unit, is going to be with her defense broken and pushed to the back of the line, and a target debuff. Now we're going to jump into the seldom use units. These are the ones you pick because, you have a specific niche you want to play them in, or you're just a collector. First we have Ice Krau, who I think was going to be everybody's pick until they thankfully scrapped the garbage awakening system. Krau is still a fantastic knight. With the ability to pack Arius, his skills defense buff and push back, and his horse can run things over when he's damaged. And Aria. She is a fantastic PvE unit. She is usable on many floors of Abyss. She opens the door to the easiest gearing Wyvern one-shot, and she has great usage in RTA and Guild Wars. Her biggest negative is that her gear level is incredibly high if you want to use her in RTA. Arunka, often called Green Hua Young, is underrated as well, especially in a meta where we are dealing with anti-crit. She can one-shot and deal with a lot of high health tanky problems all by herself. Somewhat difficult unit to build, but a fantastic answer for eliminating problems. Kise is basically Ice Hua Young, another single target nuking unit, though she can reset skills and she can stealth, and she does more damage when she's stealth, and you can put Wind Rider on her. This is a great unit to execute fire units. The only reason she doesn't see a high level of play is because you don't see a lot of fire units anymore. And speaking of fire units, we have Fire Kise in the form of Koeric. He basically does everything that Kise does, but as a fire unit. Unfortunately, with the meta centering around water and seeing so few earth units that he is good into, he sees minimal use of play right now. Charlotte, another fantastic answer for dealing with anti-crit. Here's a unit who you do not need to worry about crit chance on because she always crits. Relatively easy to build and great in PvE and in Guild Wars. Her biggest problem is that she spams AoE attacks, which can get you punished by counters and focus units like Bologna. Elena is a really nice answer to Ran. If you don't like being Ran cleaved, or if you want to deal with a Ran defense in Guild Wars, Elena is a wonderful pickup, and occasionally she finds uses in PvE events. Command Model Leica used to be the top of everyone's list, but her speed and the fact that everybody has immunity has made her a little bit harder to use. There are just better options, but she is still a really nice unit for cleaving in Guild Wars and Arena. Fire Ken is the best, hands down, Ancient Inheritance unit in the game. He also has uses in the new Rift mode. He doesn't really see much, if any, use in RTA, though his new exclusive equipment we thought might change that. I think it's been not as impactful as people had hoped. Celine is one of the most beautiful garbage tier units in the game. A lot of people put a lot of stock in this unit, and at lower RTA levels, she is fan-freaking-tastic. But once you get into the higher end of RTA, it's best to take this gear off and put it on real units. And Yufine, who was once at the top of her niche, Jacko came out and kind of took that niche away from her. Yufine is Jacko Light. Yufine does have some uses through her special exclusive equipment that lets her solo a lot of Labyrinth events, which is relatively nice, especially if you're wanting to generate ancient coins, and she still can be used in RTA as a nuker, but with the advent of Jacko, we're seeing less and less usage. Ida is another unit who used to be top of the meta and is seeing less and less use, again because AoE can get you punished with all of the new counter and focus units, but you'll still find places to use Ida. A book holder who can soul burn, push back, strip, stun, and deal damage is never not going to have a place in this game. Kayron's moderately easy to build unless you want to build him properly with a ton of effect resistance, in which case he becomes very difficult to build to maintain that damage level. Probably one of, if not the best anti-cleave units in the game. The only reason his usage has dropped so much is because cleave is not used nearly as much as it used to. The Great Mortelix, underrated unit. At high levels of RTA with high-end gear, he is a menace, and he is fantastic in defense on some Guild War teams. Green Pavel. You used to be one of the best openers, but Pavel style cleave is in probably the worst place of any style of cleave. About his only use right now is as a first stage clear for Banshee 13 if you want to make a really, really fast Banshee clear team. Ilanov is a really nice addition to the injury unit meta. Giving crit damage buff to your entire team is underrated at best. A little hard to pick, especially being a fire unit, but she can see uses. Fire Tenebria is basically dead in this game with the exception of being exceedingly good in some Abyss floors and is a good switch pitcher unit for expedition teams where you don't have the better options. Green Bologna is busted good in a lot of Abyss floors, some early Labyrinth, and for the Juleeve Council fight, but that's about the extent of her use anymore. Damage based on enemy HP is largely nerfed, so she has fallen off of the meta quite a bit. And for the final tier, these are units that either don't have uses, extremely niche uses, or just have better options. Fire Ravi got her buff, and we thought she would be the best of the best, but she's just very difficult to play. Kane is only used in Rift, and Haste is only used in Rift, and that content is going away in 4 to 5 months, so I don't know how important those units are if you want to chase them for Rift content when Rift is something that most people shouldn't be doing. Balin Cezanne is only used in Expedition. He is great there as a defense breaker, but that's about the extent of his usefulness. Chloe is only used in certain kinds of one-shots and assisting in Wyvern. Violet used to be the go-to pick to deal with people using ice teams, but even when people spam ice teams, there are usually better options than Violet. He's just not seeing use like he used to. Hua Young got nerfed into the ground, and a lot of people are coping that she's still good, but she takes the most insane level of gearing just to make her functional. We have the unit who was built to defeat Hua Young, and with Hua Young being self-defeated, now he doesn't have a use. And Cecilia, who was once top of the PvE meta, has fallen to the mighty Brieg. She is only really usable in green expeditions now, and you can also use Ras in her place. Lulika is the girl that everybody says is hot, but nobody takes to the dance. She is good in everything, but there are better solutions to her in every situation where you'd pick her. And poor Ray, who just doesn't have a place anymore. Some say he's better than Destina in Juleeve Council, and if so, it's only by a little bit. The 5 people who play Urvalin convinced Smilegate to not make him usable in Banshee, and now he is not really usable anywhere. And Basar, who was once the terror of the meta, the most difficult unit to fight against, has fallen off to the fact that the meta is so fast now that he just can't compete at his current speed thresholds. And another former terror of the meta is Green Charles, wholly replaced by Choux in his niche. Green Charles used to be just as bad, if not worse than Choux, with his counters and extra attacks, but his place in the meta has largely fallen away. We had hoped that Sez would be amazing in Guild Wars with his buff, but the gear level it takes to make him function is high, and even then, it's still dodgy in this tanky meta. Lilibet was designed with Extinction to deal with Arbiter Vildred and the Revive meta. That meta is gone and dead, and with it, Lilibet's uses. About her only use anymore seems to be as a decent damage dealer for Ancient Inheritance. Mui has a kit born for PvE, but Ice PvE is few and far between, and when it comes out, she is used, but that's about it. Melissa got nerfed into the ground. Some people still cope that she is a functional, usable unit, but it takes really high gear and you have to kind of force her. There are always better options than Melissa. Tywin had some really nice buffs, but not super usable. Lidica finds use in the occasional Abyss Floor and PvE event, but is largely too hard to use, too fragile to keep alive. And at the bottom of the list, sadly, is the gorgeous redhead Aramintha, who just doesn't seem to have any use anywhere. It takes an insane level of gear to make her work. The bottom tier, I'm not even going to discuss. Sigrid, Sirmia, Vivian, and Bomb Model Kana, because you can get these units for free, either through the hunt challenges or through the connections, and that's really what you should do. I hope this quick breeze through helps you decide which units that you want to pick from the selector, or at least gives a little clarity. I recommend that you watch other people's tier lists and suggestions for how to use a selector and discuss it with some friends and follow your own heart. Everybody's account is different, everybody's play style is different, whether you play only RTA or never RTA, whether you're fast player or slow player, a Banshee gamer or a Wyvern gamer. Everybody's needs will be different, and you should pick based on your account's needs, not what somebody on YouTube tells you to pick. These are my recommendations, they're based on my experiences, and it's definitely a way, but it's not the only way. Everybody needs to find their own path in this game, and I'm here to try to hopefully help and guide you down that path, but not steer your account for you. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments section. Definitely check out the Hauwei promotion. I'm telling you guys, it saves a ton of money. Remember to join my Discord, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good one, everybody.